you're part of the All Black squad for 2011, uh, which is amazing. Um, but it's a World Cup experience that the All Blacks won the tournament, but it was and there's some amazing stories that came out of it. Obviously, the Stephen Donald story and your story is probably at your expense. The good part of his story, um, but leading into the World Cup, you were battling a number of injuries as well, and it was a bit of a fight, I guess, for that few months leading into it. Can you take me, I guess, through that whole 2011 World Cup experience?
Yeah, look, it was an interesting sort of situation I found myself in, needing to play rugby, but also not really. And look, I ended up basically playing probably sooner than I needed to, and I wasn't in the condition to. So yeah, where I'm getting to is I basically got injured pretty early on in my return. It was actually before the Tri Nations. It was a shortened Tri Nations that year, but yeah, I ended up going to a club training on a Tuesday night, trying to find another bit more training time in. And Aaron Major was a coach actually, and I ended up doing my adductor at training, but I needed to play on the Saturday, and so I pulled my adductor. I ended up not playing because I couldn't walk, but the following week I had to basically get play 40 minutes for the Shield game, and I didn't want to pull out of that one because I knew that I only had that and then one more ITM Cup game before the Tri Nations started, and I sort of got the phone call from Graham Henry. It was like, all right, you're not playing. I don't want to do a Graham Henry voice. Probably be embarrassing. But yeah, he basically like, are you ready to go? Either you're ready to go or you're not. And I said, yep, I'm ready, And, here's me that couldn't kick a ball, couldn't train or anything like that. And I had to go out and play ITM Cup, the Shield game and then the ITM Cup. And I managed to get through, but it was pretty bad. Like it was, yeah, adductors are it's like a pulley system type thing, and it tends to, one side's working a bit hard, it can pull on your osteitis pubis and those sort of things too. So your pubic bone and all the rest of it, without getting too many details that might be a bit weird. But yeah, so I sort of really struggled with that, and because of the nature of the Tri Nations, I sort of kept carrying through with it, and I never got a chance to heal. So apart from not being able to kick, I think I'd kick sort of 6 balls, and that was it. I sort of struggled the whole way through, and it became quite chronic actually, and it was. To the point where I wouldn't get out of bed on my days off, or take painkillers. I was on anti-inflammatories for about 8 weeks straight, which, in sports and Italy is not ideal for the old liver. So, and it was ironic that I finally I did make the All Black World Cup squad, and then it was kind of ironic that DC's groin would go after I'd been sort of battling it for so long, and then ultimately he gave up on me the following match. So, yeah, like it was a dark, frustrating time because, I was probably operating at about sort of 70% of capacity of what I could. I hadn't played any rugby, and yet there was this great opportunity, I suppose, to fill DC's gap and become the hero. But, ultimately injury took over there, and someone else got that crack to do that. And credit to Beaver that he came in and kicked that goal. But it's certainly a period in my life where I was like, what could have been. And again, it's all part of the story, and I wouldn't change where I am now. I'm super stoked with how things worked out post that. But, at that time, around that whole injury period, it was pretty dark time. And I'm assuming you're probably going to lead on to the further injuries and my broken leg the following year. But that whole sort of period, I was quite resentful, I guess, and to my situation. You sort of look for, I definitely had excuses. I definitely had something to blame, and injuries were holding me back. But it turned out all right. But at that time, you never know how it's going to end, and you think the worst of things. So yeah, something I just had to work through, and only in time I sort of managed to deal with it. But that whole World Cup was pretty hard for a number of reasons. But dealing with that injury was frustrating, very frustrating.
Would you have done anything differently if you could have that 2011 or that period there? Could you have done anything with experience now and knowing, you've had a 15-year career of playing rugby? What would have you done differently, or you think you made all the right choices at the time?
No, I don't know. I could have made anything differently, man. The only other thing would have been to front up and sort of say that I wasn't ready for the World Cup or body wasn't right. And, that was in the days we only carried the 210s, so it was only me and DC. And so ultimately I was playing every week. So you don't want to give another guy an opportunity. You don't want to
Mm,
say you're not
mm,
ready and they pick someone else, especially, the World Cups. What you play for, you're sort of like Olympians, man. You're like on a 4-year sort of cycle for this thing, and you don't want to blow your chance. So it was just sort of a roll the dice, see if it comes right. It didn't, but I wouldn't have changed my decision to play, I guess. But
mm.
yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, and so for the World Cup final, everyone was, hanging on the edge of the seat, 8-7, dramatic game. But you had a very different experience to most of us, where you were actually having to get injections and painkillers and, an exemption to even go and watch the final. Tell us about that, I guess the couple of days leading into the final and then the day after as well.
Yeah, it was a whole week, to be honest. A week before, so just after I got back. So I watched the semi-final in Auckland, and then I go back to Christchurch, just World Cup rules. And basically, I had an injection when I was in Auckland just to take away some of the pain in my adductor. And yeah, I ended up getting an infection. And sort of Monday night, I was basically admitted to hospital, and I was with an infection, shaking and sweating, and on the antibiotic drip. And yeah, it wasn't coming right for whatever reason. So I basically spent the whole week in hospital. Yeah, with an IV drip in my arm, and the doctor came through and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, but you can't go to the final." And I was like, "Nah, mate, like I've got to go. Like I don't care. You're going. I'm going. I'm walking out. You can't stop me," sort of thing. And
Mm,
long story short is we got the All Black doctor involved, and she's sort of Deb Robinson. She sort of at the time said to me that, or said to the doctor that she'll look after me and make sure that I'll get my regular injections and things like that. And so yeah, morning of the World Cup final, managed to limp
yeah,
out of hospital, get to the airport and go to the game. But yeah, even at the ceremony and all that sort of stuff, I think at half time I had to go see the match doctor and get a dose of antibiotics, and then I still had my IV drip in my arm that whole time. So I was limping more more out of the infection than anything. It was yeah, again, the whole country's sort of on this celebratory mode. I had to come, watch the final and then get straight back on the plane the next morning, go back to hospital. And it cleared up about 3 or 4 days after that, but it was about 7 or 8 days in hospital there, and without being able to move or anything. It was, it's just a cap off, the
yeah.
disappointment of blowing out in the World Cup and not being able to finish it. And then you get an infection, so you can't even enjoy the bloody thing. So, yeah, that's what it is.
Did you manage to have a few beers with the lads after it?
Technically, no, I can't say. Yeah, I did, mate. Absolutely. I know you're not allowed to, but I can't lie. I mean, you have to have a couple of beers and celebrate just to enjoy the moment. But yeah,
Yeah.
not